How's it going? Cultured and knowledgeable audience, seekers of alternative truth, and lovers of the shadow theater of the Fourth Transformation? Welcome to this corner where reality surpasses fiction and where today's honest people are tomorrow's Drug Enforcement Administration files. Today we'll break it down. How do you create a legendary distraction in the palace? Let's not get distracted by the scandals of the lousy Marx Sarriaga or Salma Hayek. The truth is that we shouldn't take our attention away from what's most important, no matter how much Claudia Scheinbaum wants to play dumb. Jesus Ramirez Cuevas and Julio Scherer must testify before the prosecutor's office, and an investigation file needs to be opened. What is mentioned in that book is no small matter. If you thought that Salma Hayek's praises and Marx Arriaga's tantrum at the Ministry of Education, that "I'm not leaving, you'll have to remove me by force," it was a burst of revolutionary dignity. Let me tell you, you've been sold a bill of goods, or rather, you've been given a carefully designed distraction crafted in the fine offices of Mrs. Claudia Scheinbaum's chief advisors. Let's get to it. Marx Sarriaga gave us a 3-day show that you wouldn't even see on Broadway. 3 days of fury and free Wi-Fi. He spent 3 days barricaded in a public office, broadcasting live as if he were Che Guevara in the Sierra Maestra, but with air conditioning and probably capsule coffee. His sin was not wanting to give up his seat or his paycheck. His defense? "I'm an Obradorista, because in this country, apparently, declaring your faith in the supreme leader grants you immunity from your own bosses." Which inevitably leads us to the question, who's in charge here? Claudia's dilemma? What happened with Sarriaga isn't just a simple office dispute. Apparently, it's the first visible fracture in Obradorismo. In this situation, the frog-eyed one looks violated. Mario Delgado, Secretary of Education, exposed as a boss who can't even fire a general director. They had to apologize to him, offer him options, and go out and say that his pathetic work is highly valued. This would reveal the real fear in the palace. Confronting Marx means confronting the ideological legacy of the Macuspano donkey. Textbooks are not educational materials. They are the most powerful instrument of ideological formation used by the state. In them, it is decided who is a hero, who is a villain, and how the war should be remembered. Morena's version, of course. However, as the classic would say, I have other information. It turns out that the real author of the rebellion is not the lousy Arriaga, but the very Bañagatos Jesus Ramirez Cuevas. And why would the champion of social communication be playing administrative war games? Well, because the book, Neither Revenge Nor Forgiveness, by Julio Scherer Ibarra and Jorge Fernandez Menendez, hit him like a bucket of cold water, but with ice. Ramirez Cuevas has gone into panic, and it's no wonder. His name not only decorates the pages of political gossip, but also appears prominently on investigation lists in the United States. He's there, just one step below the untouchable Automaro Martinez, the other man from Tabasco, who has the absolute trust of the old man. For those who think Jesus only focused on printing the newspaper Regeneración, it's worth noting there are no clear records of the millions of copies claimed. Scherer's book, as we already know, reveals much more enterprising sides. For example, dangerous relationships, opening the doors of the National Palace to none other than Sergio Carmona, the late king of Huachicol. Union deals, reaching an out-of-court settlement of 27 billion pesos for the Mexican Electricians Union. Rumor has it, and the records show, that Jesus didn't do it out of love for the working class, but rather for personal gain in the negotiation. This is where the story becomes worthy of a Netflix series. According to the testimonies, Automaro Martinez and Jesus Ramirez were the sponsors who brought Sergio Carmona to the presidential office. Imagine the scene, Carmona spending hours at the National Intelligence Center with Automaro. Did he want a selfie with López Obrador to show off to his partners that he was Automaro's man? He asked him. The fuel thief in front of the then president. The ironic thing is that López Obrador himself, after the conversation, warned his subordinates that the guy was dangerous because of how easily he gave out information. What a sharp eye the old man has, piss pants. Too bad his advisors preferred to keep partying. And if fuel theft seems like nothing, hold on. Automaro Martinez is under the scrutiny of American intelligence for selling fake Mexican passports. It's said they sold around 400 passports to Russians and just as many to Chinese, charging the modest sum of $50,000 per person. A perfect business that's got the Americans more than irritated. That's exactly why Claudia says she hasn't read the book and that she's not going to read it. Come on, chachas. Only your husband would believe that. It's a really easy way out to avoid taking the responsibility she should assume as head of the executive. On the other hand, it's said that there's nervousness in the Guinda Olympus, because just like the results of Luisa Maria Alcalde and Andy Lopez Beltran, the welfare guy, have been, let's say, modest, not to say mediocre. The welfare maid, in her desperation, is thinking about bringing back the master of operations. But be careful, because under Uncle Sam's new scrutiny and the Trumpist vision, teaming up with organized crime groups for political purposes is no longer just corruption, now it's terrorism. And Mario Delgado is in the top 10 of the list of politicians under investigation in Washington for his ties to Huachicol money. Let's not forget that Moreno holds the record for having received and distributed billions of dollars to install more than 20 governors in 2021. The operation ran so smoothly that they repeated it in 2024. His current position as Secretary of Education, where not even Marx Arriaga respects him, was actually a consolation prize to prevent him from falling into the temptation of becoming a protected witness in the United States. Just imagine what this man knows. If he talks, does the 4T choir come to an end? The evidence isn't just hallway gossip. There are audios and videos, courtesy of the late Sergio Carmona's phone, the king of Huachicol, that show how Mario Delgado and his loyal sidekick Erasmo Gonzalez were riding around in Carmona's private jet. All over the country, they frequently went to Ciudad Victoria and to San Pedro Garza Garcia, the poorest municipality in Mexico. Personally picking up the cash favors for the campaigns, that's real commitment to the cause, not half measures. No traceable transfers, just stacks of cash, like in the old days of the Institutional Revolutionary Party, but with a hint of sovereignty. Bringing Mario Delgado back to lead Morena would be like inviting the wolf to guard the hen house. Meanwhile, the owner of the farm is being investigated by the police. Lopez Obrador, who may seem foolish but isn't, avoided granting him immunity. But he's the only party president who didn't end up in the Senate or the Chamber of Deputies. The Macaspano donkey likely knew something, as he chose to leave him exposed to the courts. That's why I think it's very unlikely, if not impossible, for that to happen. I'm just telling you what is rumored in the sewers of this country's politics. And meanwhile, Mario can't even handle a desk rebellion from Marx Sarriaga. Or rather, he pretends he can't. We ask ourselves, how much money is owed? How much did he really divert to print those books that are now indoctrinating our children? Was the education budget used to provide humanitarian support to the Cuban system? When will investigations be opened against the catwasher Jesus Ramirez Cuevas? When will Julio Scherer be called to testify? But most importantly, now that they are going to make adjustments, will the books include a chapter about the fuel theft and fentanyl mafias linked to the leaders of Morena? It would be an unforgettable civics lesson. For all of the above reasons, from my very skeptical point of view, it's no coincidence that Marx Sarriaga, another of the purest of the pure, decided to entrench himself in the CEP with the approval of Mario Delgado and the very tenant of the palace herself. They needed social media and the front pages to talk about the textbooks and the educational resistance, as well as the praise from Salma Hayek, and not about the criminal files that crossed the border. So there you have it, my dear viewers of The Alternate Truth. In Morena, there aren't exactly cracks. What there are sinkholes made on purpose, with big interests involved. The next time you see an official from the Fourth Transformation shouting sovereignty, humanism, first, the poor should check if they don't have an open file in the United States or $1 million settlement under their arm. In this circus, the clowns are just props, but the money they take is very real. What do you think? I'll read your comments. Remember that you can make your donations via PayPal. You can find the information in the comments section. Thanks to you, this channel stays active. It's very important to subscribe, like, and hit the bell to get notifications every time there's new content. Thank you.